Enemies all around, getting closer and closer, and your trusted weapon malfunctions, leaving you defenseless. This is the reason the US Army hates the M4. This was the case for US troops on July 13, 2008, when they faced weapons malfunctions during an attack on the relatively new US outpost near the village of Wanat, located in Afghanistan's province of Kunar that borders the Pakistani border. Nearly 200 Afghan insurgents attacked the outpost, and an unknown number of militants got inside. In one reported case, Staff Sergeant Eric Phillips recounted that his M4 carbine jammed, after which he quickly grabbed a machine gun, but that didn't work either. This resulted in the deadliest attack on US forces in 3 years. But why did this happen? While the M16 was the preferred firearm for US troops since the Vietnam War, the M4 M4A1 5.56mm carbine is now the standard issue firearm for most units in the US military. The latest member of the M16 family, the M4 carbine is a lightweight, gas-operated, air-cooled, magazine-fed, selective-rate shoulder-fired weapon. So how does the M4 differ from the M16? First, the M16 has a standard barrel length of 16 inches, while the M4 comes with a barrel length of 14.5 inches standard. This made the rifle lighter, among other things, and led to the adoption of the M4 over the M16 in the mid-90s. Secondly, while both rifles accept any standard STANAG magazine, like GI Mags, PMags, Lancer, or DD, the M16 usually has a solid stationary stock, while on the M4 the stock is usually collapsible. A third difference is the gun's design. The standard M16 came with a handle on top, used for carrying purposes, and even mounting specialized shooting glass. Now, the M4s usually come flat-topped with some sort of rail system, the M1913 Picatinny, Keymod, or M-LOK, making it more apt for tactical applications. For decades, the Army has known that the M16 rifle and M4 carbine are both plagued by some flawed operating systems that make the weapons jam easily. On top of that, a major issue with the M4 is a defect that allows it to discharge a round without actually pulling the trigger. Despite the higher-ups knowing about these flaws, the US Army still chose to purchase an additional 66,450 M4s. But what about the troops on the ground? Are they happy with the weapon? In a survey conducted by the Center of Naval Analysis, 917 soldiers who used the M4 carbine in combat reported an 89% overall satisfaction in the weapon, although only 80% reported confidence that the M4 will fire without malfunction in combat. The report adds that those who attached accessories to their weapon were more likely to experience stoppages, regardless of how the accessories were attached. While those numbers might not be the worst, would you be confident going into combat with a 19% chance that your weapon would malfunction at some point? In the news and articles, we often hear a weapon jammed or some such nondescript statement that tells us nothing more besides the fact that your rifle didn't fire. So before we get into specific firing flaws of the M4 carbine, let's talk about some types of ways a weapon can malfunction. To be able to correct malfunctions and, more importantly, prevent them, the operator must be able to identify why these occurred. To do so, soldiers are trained to look for specific factors that contribute to malfunctions. Failure to properly load your firearm is the most common cause of malfunctions. In most cases, this comes about due to an improperly loaded magazine, with the most common mistake being putting 31 rounds into a 30-round magazine, preventing it from seating well. If you do hammer the extra round in, it'll do damage to the feed lips, which will cause the rifle to malfunction on the first shot due to the extreme pressure on the bottom of the bolt carrier by that 31st round. Faulty magazines will also lead to the same problem, as a weak spring will mean that the round cycling process will malfunction. This can cause double feeds, where a live round is trying to occupy the same space as a spent cartridge that was not extracted, or a true double feed, where 2 live bullets are pushed into the chamber at the same time. We don't have to mention how unsafe that is. These malfunctions can also happen due to a bad extractor or ejector, not enough lube, or even a defect in some gas-operating weapons not cycling all the way. This is why a firearm should be treated like a machine or a car. Proper maintenance should be performed at every opportunity to function optimally in different circumstances. Environmental factors like cold temperature, outside influences like sand or salt, and high humidity can wreak havoc on any machine. In these situations, weapon maintenance schedules should be modified and preventative maintenance performed more frequently, as each environment poses different challenges. To ensure a gun runs well, you have to adapt to how you take care of each piece of the weapon system. Another important but less common factor that leads to malfunction is the quality of ammo. Using improperly manufactured or environmentally damaged ammunition is inevitable. but we don't see it happen as modern ammo storage and manufacturing usually prevents this. Despite malfunctions, the M4-M16 family is both praised and criticized for its current performance in the field. Recognizing issues with the weapon, the Army is pursuing a two-phase PIP, or Product Improvement Proposal Plan, to keep the M4 carbine inventory strong. Phase 1 upgrades the Army's M4s to the Special Forces M4A1, while Phase 2 explores future improvements to the M4A1 carbine to deliver enhanced reliability, durability, ergonomics, and zero retention. The military is conducting extensive testing of the M4 carbine to identify major issues with the weapon, so improvements can be made accordingly. In recent years, the M4 finished dead last, or close to dead last, in multiple competitions, testing its reliability in the field. Even in competitions where special ammo and magazines were used to make the weapon shine, the Army abruptly stopped the process once again, stating they would only switch to another weapon platform if they could prove the new gun would be twice as good as the M4. The M4 has a reputation as an excellent weapon, if you can maintain it. Failure to maintain the weapon meticulously can lead to jams, especially in sandy or dusty environments. The original military order for the Colt-manufactured M4 carbine in the mid-1900s was a small-scale order to equip units who would otherwise have relied on less accurate 9mm submachine guns. The direct development and sole-source contract status raised little fuss, and subsequent contracts also raised little scrutiny. So why do many people feel the M4 has failed the American troops? Extended combat in dusty, sandy environments that highlighted the weapon's weak points as well as its comparative strengths, leading to escalating volumes of complaints. This has been made more obvious by the emergence of alternatives that preserve those strengths, while addressing those weak points and what many perceive as a waste of money on the M4 program. With both praise and complaints for the rifle, the Army Times magazine tackled the controversial carbine using results from the 2003 Project Manager Soldiers Weapons Assessment Team's report that concluded that the executive summary said that M16s and M4s functioned reliably in the combat zone as long as soldiers conducted daily operator maintenance and applied a light coat of lubricant. However, to soldiers with their lives on the line, reliability standards are of utmost importance. A faulty weapon in combat can mean the difference between returning home safely or in a body bag. A 3rd Infantry Division soldier said, "I know it fires very well and accurate when clean, but sometimes it needs to fire dirty well too." Another soldier from the 25th Infantry Division said, "The M4 weapon in the deserts of Iraq and Afghanistan was quick to malfunction when little sand got in the weapon. Trying to keep it clean, sand-free was impossible while on the patrols or firefights." While a member of the 75th Ranger Regiment had this to say, "Even with the dust cover closed and magazine in the well, sand gets all inside, on and around the bolt. It still fires, but after a while the sand works its way all through the gun and jams start." Getting so much heat from issues with the carbine, the Army had to act and do something about it. Since the weapon's introduction, the Army has already made over 90 performance engineering change proposals to the M4 carbine, with improvements being made to the trigger assembly, extractor spring, recoil buffer, barrel chamber, magazine, and bolt. Ergonomic changes were also made to allow soldiers to tailor the rifle according to their needs. For example, U.S. Special Operations Command (SOCOM) has been using the M4A1 AR-15 style firearm variant since 2005. Features of this variant include the RIS-2 Picatinny quad rail, a handrail with one of the more heavy-duty mounts that's said to not decrease performance. As the U.S. Special Operations Command frequently uses the M4 carbine SOP mod version, the Delta Force turned to German defense company Heckler & Koch for a fix that would preserve the M4 but remove problems that led to heat buildup and gas from its operating mechanism that dries out some lubricants and opens the way for sand damage. H&K replaced Colt's gas tube system with a short-stroke piston system that eliminates carbon blowback into the chamber and reduces the heat problem created by the superhot gases used to cycle the M4. Other changes were made to the magazine, barrel, etc. The final product was an M4 with a new upper receiver and magazine, plus Heckler & Koch's 4-rail system of standard Picatinny rails on the top, bottom, and both sides for easy addition of anything a special operator might require. With much room for improvement, it's clear why so many soldiers actually hate the M4 carbine. Despite having gained a reputation for malfunctioning, it isn't likely the U.S. military will be phasing out this rifle anytime soon. Hopefully, appropriate changes will be made to the M4 carbine, making it a more reliable rifle that will back soldiers and work when needed most. Dying for one's country is a noble thing, but dying on a technicality and error shouldn't happen. After the flawed M4, let's up the ante and go for some more firepower. Check out the most lethal modern military weapons.